And we're live. Hello everyone. Welcome back to a new week of making comics. Last week we went through a little bit about the sort of idea of the stream and how we were going to organize everything, and sort of a few tips on how to pitch to publishers, and sort of outlined the idea of the stream, which was to make our own comic from start to finish live on the show, and then eventually pitch the idea through all of the sort of online submissions, much like I did with my first comic book, Fruit, which is coming out later this year. And so last week we went a little bit over what we sort of required, and one of the things that we came to was actually a tip from one of my editors, which is to draw what you want to draw. I think it's a really good starting point when you come up with stories to basically get into your sketchbooks and then just try and draw some characters, just draw whatever sort of comes to mind, and hopefully you'll be able to get inspiration from a story and sort of start writing from there. So I'll show you what I've had in my sketchbook. Unfortunately, I've not really had the best day of drawing. I kind of found drawing today quite tough, and that's okay. Sometimes you just have those sort of days. I was quite keen to get some sketches down for this stream and sort of get some ideas. I think got a bit of an idea sort of going, which would be cool to sort of pursue over the course of the stream. But yeah, I sort of got into sketchbook today and I really couldn't make anything sort of work. But I'll share that with you today because not going to hide away from that. Let's have a look from there. So, jump over to my desk. So this is just one of my sketchbooks I'm working in at the moment, and I've also got a little oil painting that's the current thumbnail for this video. If that is something that interests you, so all my original paintings are available on my website, and the link should be in the description to the shop on there. So I put up most of my original stuff on there as and when I make it. And yeah, what are we up to today? So awful sketches today. Really struggled. Some of these are all right, to get anything down. Just really found it quite tough. Did some little thumbnail stuff instead just to try and sort of work it through. Then kind of landed on a couple of these sketches that I quite liked. These sort of little things here, but they, really struggled, but that's okay, to move forward. But I kind of need to blow off the cobwebs with a sketchbook. It's something that I've not been using as much in favour of digital work, and yeah, it can definitely show. So what I've done is I've pulled a few of the sketches that I did like into Photoshop, and I'm just going to have a little noodle today to try and see if there's anything in there that we can maybe make a story out of. I quite liked the idea with these characters of just like a really simple story, just about two people sort of wandering around in this sort of post-apocalyptic world. I kind of like the idea of maybe these androids that had been left over to roam Earth after everything is gone, and just sort of a story about them and their life. So yeah, I've got a couple of these sort of designs to sort of work through, and I think maybe something will be able to come of that. Let me just grab a drink first, sorry. Also, if anyone has any of their ideas for their own comics, or they're working through stuff for their own personal work, we have a Discord, which is also in the description, and that is just full of other comic creators and people that share their work, and we sort of talk through the stuff of the stream, and also kind of help do art critiques if you want to have that on there. You can also share your writing or just chat in general about everything that's going on for yourselves at the moment. So I think this one's quite like a fun, maybe we'll just do like a silly poster sort of design. I quite like this bizarre perspective that we've got, this strange perspective grid, and it kind of all sinks back in here. And so I kind of just wanted to see where I went with these characters, to see if there was sort of any thing that maybe worth working some more on. And if anyone had any ideas for their own robot or own characters for their comics, feel free to drop it in the chat and we can talk about it. I think I was just sort of thinking about what was going on with the channel at the moment. So continuing these live streams every Monday, and then we'll sort of be shorts and stuff going up on the channel from there. But we're also going to be doing some more sort of longer form content, and hopefully some interviews and some podcast stuff with some other comic creators, some that you might know, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Hopefully recording one this week actually, which will be really exciting. So I will be sure to let everyone know when those sort of videos go live. I think it's just trying to make it a fun and interesting place and help sort of people get their start in drawing comics and their own sort of creative processes. Just noodling around with this character. Kind of one of the things that I wanted to do with this project is sort of focus on things that I felt like I wasn't particularly good at, and one of those is definitely mecha and sort of mechanical parts. It's not something that I've ever really tried to do, and I think it's something that a lot of people that I kind of look up to do really well, and so I think it's a good opportunity with these sort of projects to really sort of think about what I wanted to draw, which is something that I wanted to improve in my personal work. So I think what the two things that I would like to draw is robots and mecha, and also cars and vehicles and environments. That's the sort of thing that I personally want to work on. I've done, a hell of a lot of stuff on figurative work and sort of really worked hard on that for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, but really want to sort of round out that part of my sort of skill set really. So yeah, it's up to you whether or not you want to sort of draw for your comic things that you sort of feel safe with drawing, or really push the boat out and try and draw something a bit more out there. That you find maybe a little bit harder to draw, but in the long run it's going to improve your skills. So, kind of like this sort of design, trying to work out these sort of, maybe there's some clouds in the background just to help. Force that perspective. Don't know how much I love that particular shape. You can see if I can mess around with my sketch a little bit, using the Liquify tool, just to try and improve the position of this character. I think I want that a little bit thinner. And that shape's much nicer if you do it like that. Maybe a bit longer. I feel like this would be way higher up as well, this lower leg. Not sure if you can actually see my Liquify window, but I'm gonna be over and done with it in a second. Yeah, so this week I've been working on a lot of the revisions for the first issue of Fruit, which has been quite fun. Just working through sort of the thumbnails and trying to get them up to a more finished piece before going ahead and inking everything from there. So quite exciting sort of process. It's one of those things where you kind of realize how hard comics are to do. There's a lot of tips and tricks, and continuity is one of the things that I'm trying to focus on a bit more, just to try and stay a bit more consistent with characters and positionings within scenes. It's can be tough to keep it all, varied, and also keep the reader sort of understanding, because one of the difficulties is that, as the creator, you're completely aware of what's going on, because you created the story, so you're entirely sort of knowledgeable on it. In actual fact, it's the reader's kind of coming from a position that's completely unknowledgeable on the subject, so you have to make sure that you get this sort of balance of treating them like they're not, not that they're not dumb, and they can sort of work things out for themselves, but also try and make sure that the story is not confusing and not too easily lost. Cool. Right, so maybe a little bit of shade. I might get some references up for some mecha stuff, because it's again not something that I'm super used to drawing, but I'll always give it a go. It's quite a nice little shape, and then I'm kind of not hugely worried at the moment about what all the form and God, this brush is annoying. Change back to my good old faithful. About the design or anything. It's mainly a case of just noodling and seeing what pops up. Kind of getting into that flow state and switching your sort of brain off to try and work out these characters, because in your head you kind of know what works and what looks good, and I think sometimes I'm a culprit of not letting go, and I think you can do quite well off the back of just getting into that sort of zone and not overly worrying too much about stuff and just going with it, because I actually tend to find that most of my best stuff comes up when I start doing that. Just sort of get into that flow state and just sort of work on things rather than just keep working at it and see what is working. Might pull up some references in a second for mech stuff, because it's not something that I'm that used to drawing, but I kind of want to make sure I get it right. So the idea is that she's got this sort of bionic leg, this sort of android maybe character. And then this sort of little mini droid who is a little bit derivative, I guess, but that's all right. We'll just working on the initial ideas here. These things can all change and be edited, and you're not locked in when you draw something cool to being like, oh, that's what I'm gonna draw for this whole comic. It's just about trying to find things and shapes that you like drawing, things that come easily, and maybe it's got like a little, I always quite like those motocross mudguard things, the sort of fenders. Might be quite cool. And I quite like working just in black and white at this stage, because then all you have to worry is about the values. There's not a huge amount else that you have to be concerned with. It's just there's my grid. Oh, did I draw on my... Oh, no, classic. I've drawn on my perspective grid. Okay, not to worry. I always do that, honestly. Every single time I do these live streams, I'm always drawing on the wrong blooding layer. And I end up having everything joined in. So this is going to be further back, so it's not going to be anywhere near as dark. There's the shapes on this one. And these stilettos. Right, I'm going to flatten the image. This is something that I think people don't do often enough. I think they're really scared of, like, especially when you're in this like early stage, they're sort of scared of losing stuff. But really, I just kind of don't be too precious, and if you've got loads of layers on top of layers, just flatten it all and start again on top until you've got a sketch that's worth working with for, you know, your colouring process or however you want to do it. You should always use layers to do that all from there. But, you know, when I'm just doing these sketches, I kind of, just for the sake of simplicity, will mainly just start the drawing and then just push the layers down afterwards. So I kind of want to feel like this sort of floating shape, not white. They're two sort of, this one is almost like he's bounding over a object. I'm trying to get this perspective right for what I'm trying to draw. Which is a bit of a challenge. I think maybe you get a sort of I need to again put a layer underneath. So I think this robot I need to definitely amend. So let's drop this down and have a proper sort of dig into this guy here. So he's currently, because it was just drawn from a sketchbook sketch, he's not in the same perspective as the other character. So I just need to do a little bit to sort of correct that. And when I'm sort of trying to find these perspectives, I really like to work quite far out, just so that I'm not too precious with it, and making sure that everything reads at a smaller size. first before pushing ahead too much on these sort of characters. Sort of like he's gone over the over the edge there, losing my brush. Ooh, got a bit of a lag on my Photoshop. But yeah, if anyone has any ideas for their own comics that they've been working on, we do have a Discord where people are welcome to share what they're working on during these live streams, you know, their own ideas. We can work through characters, everything like that. And as I say, the goal for this project is to finally pitch a comic to the publishers. Oh, cool. Hi, Emmanuel. Thanks for dropping the message. I think it's the first time that I've maybe seen you chatting on one of these. It's really nice for you to join the live. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so hopefully Fruit will be out in the sort of around the summer this year, which is really exciting. I'm currently, today I started working on the revisions for the first issue from my sort of thumbnails and stuff. So plowing ahead with that and then hopefully start inking it all. Yeah, so you're asking who were my artistic inspirations. Yeah, of course, Paul Pope is a big one. We just talked about doing a podcast sort of episode, and with my friend Jamie, who you guys might know is one of the YouTube editors. We did a podcast about sort of comic books that you'd bring, your sort of desert island discs, and one of mine, I'll show you guys actually, that might make it a bit easier. So I'll show you the comic that I brought. So this is the comic that I brought to the live, the podcast, so hopefully that episode might be coming up quite soon. This is Solo, which is a DC series, but they did a number of different creators on that one, and this is Paul Pope's one. It's one of my favourite comics. Let's see if I can get a bit of a better view for you guys. We have the technology. Cool. Yeah, so this is probably one of my big inspirations. This comic is amazing. It's got a sort of Frank Kirby OMAC homage in there. But one of my favourite stories is this life-size ghost one, which is basically just about a kid sending off for a big, giant toy in the back of his comic book, and when it arrives it's not quite what he expected, and I just think it's such a sweet little story. But the back has this cool teenage sidekick one, which is Batman and Robin story as well. So I definitely recommend picking this one up if you guys have the option, and also check out on the channel, we'll be going over this book at some point soon. But yeah, Paul Pope's a massive one for me. Also, I'd say Bill Sienkiewicz, probably my favourite comic series. Let's see what else I've got to hand. Electro Assassin is probably, if not my favourite, sort of single short issue series so far that I've read. This was from 1986, and yeah, this book is just unbelievable. All hand painted, Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz on there, and this is sort of where I really kind of, the sort of gloves were off really in terms of what was possible within comics. And actually, if you have a look deep dive on my Instagram, I did actually paint this page sort of from start to finish, and did my own sort of master copy of that. And in terms of others, Ashley Wood as well. I'm a big fan of Ashley Wood's work. especially his paintings and stuff. And then probably anything Vertigo really was my sort of what I read when I was a lot younger. So Fables is kind of a big one for me. I love Fables, and James Jean's work on the covers for Fables were always massive. In terms of what I'm reading at the moment, I've just got the Gotham Gargoyle of Gotham book, which I was really excited to read. Been reading a lot of Absolute Batman series, which is also fun. I actually really loved. I'll tell you, this is one that sorry to keep jumping back between the two. This just recently came out, City Beneath Her Feet, which is James Tynan, I think is how you pronounce it, and Elsa Charretière. This book's really amazingly beautiful. Lucky enough to own one of Elsa's pages, actually, from Love Everlasting, and met her at Thought Bubble. But I really like this book. I think it's one to definitely pick up. Should be in, I think it's on its third print now for stores, but yeah, would definitely recommend reading that one if you have a shop local to you. Yeah, he's definitely a tough one. He does have there's a YouTube video from I think he did a lecture at one of the like an institution, maybe one of the universities in America, so you can kind of see a little bit more about his process. But yeah, he does all sorts of bonkers stuff with bleach and ink and God knows what else. So he's not the easiest one to work out what's going on. But actually a lot of it was sort of quite traditional sort of stuff for the time. I think he does a lot more digital based sort of editing of his work now, I would say. So he does, like, I think there's a lot of like digital passes and things that he's doing on his work nowadays. I might be wrong on this, but yeah, definitely compared to his older stuff, because that kind of had a lot of the sort of colouring pencil sort of style that you kind of became accustomed to with sort of 80s illustrative work. But yeah, a big fan of that one. Also, his Stray Toaster series is crazy. He's got some absolutely bonkers pages in there. There's some scans of circuit boards and God knows what else in that one. What about yourself, Emmanuel? What sort of things are inspiring you at the moment? What sort of artists do you look up to if you draw yourself? Oh, hey Alex. I am currently working on just some character stuff for this comic project. So what we're doing here is trying to make a comic book pitch live on YouTube every Monday. We're working a little bit more on it, and then by the end of the year, hopefully we should have something to be able to submit to sort of one of the main publishers, things like Image or Dark Horse, that sort of stuff, and basically running through the process that I did when I pitched my first comic, Fruit, which is coming out this year. And so last week we worked on sort of the overview of the pitch and like what we needed to get done, and sort of sent away to do a little bit of character ideas, so that we could come to the stream and maybe draw some stuff that might be a bit more interesting to draw. And yeah, today I'm working on like a little sketch that I've got going on. Sort of the idea I had was maybe two characters, these sort of androids that have been left to roam the earth, and maybe it's just like a sort of simple story about them living in this sort of post-apocalyptic world, and sort of maybe what life is like to be a eternal being. I think is the idea. But yeah, it's just sort of ideations at the moment. But yeah, as I say, we do have a Discord where people can share their own projects and ideas also for this project on there as well. Yeah, his work is really, really great. I've heard a lot of good things about, we wrote it's about like a secret service sort of thing of, Department of Truth or Lie. I can't remember what it is, one of these things, but my friend Jamie, who did the podcast with, he really, really loves that one. So I'd been meaning to pick it up. And yeah, one of the main things about this project was to sort of, for me personally, was to work on things that I don't often draw, and wanted to sort of improve on myself. So I wanted to do more mecha. It's definitely something that I've not drawn a huge amount of. So that's why I'm kind of thinking about this sort of more, a couple of mecha characters and sort of working through that to try and sort of form the story around, and also gain a little bit myself from learning a little bit more. I spend a lot of time drawing figures, and sometimes I just want to round out the wheelhouse a little bit, because it's pretty tough when you have to draw cars or something like that and you have no idea what you're doing. So what about yourself, Alex? Are you working on anything at the moment? Any drawing or comics or art or illustration? Oh, cool. What are you working on? Try and... Oh, have I lost my... See, my tablet's been very slow today. I keep losing my Cintiq pen. I don't know. I'm never sure if if these things have batteries in them. I can't work out. I do need to Google it to find out, but I'm unsure whether or not my Cintiq pen needs recharging at some point. Oh, cool. That's pretty cool, Alex. If you've got anything that you can share, you're always welcome to share it in the Discord. It'd be very cool to see those pages as sort of they come together. Is it a short story, or is it like a longer project that you're working on? Not really sure how this mech.exe object is gonna be, so we'll keep that for a later problem to solve. Maybe they're running from an explosion, eh? I think that's much cooler. Oh, cool. Did you think about pitching that 8-page one, or are you just waiting until you can get like a full issue? trying to think a little bit more about the volumes of these shapes here for the body. Maybe how this android is going to be looking. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, writing's quite a tough one. I think I was quite lucky in some respects because I did a lot of. Well, my first degree was in animation, and there's a lot of sort of crossover in terms of the what's the storytelling between the two, really. So I definitely think that was very fortunate in helping to be able to sort of know a little bit about the writing. Yeah. It's kind of like have you ever seen the We Three, the sort of Grant Morrison, Frank Whiteley one about the sort of animal super soldiers that get put together? That's quite a fun one. Or Fables is also a very similar one. They've got all the three pigs in there, and if you haven't read that one, I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for inspiration. Fables is one of my favourites. I'm trying to think, I probably need to push this actually a bit further back here. I don't think that body is actually working at the moment. Let's maybe try a little difference in that pose. Try and work out. Oh yeah, Fables. It's by oh god, now you're asking. John Bingingham, I think it was. It's, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of issues of it. It ran for a very long time, but one of the reasons why I read it to begin with is that all the covers were done by James Jean, who's one of my sort of favorite artists. So definitely, but the story is great as well. It's just like say everyone in fairy tales, they basically all fairy tales live in fairy tale land, and their land is invaded by a sort of evil army, and then they're forced out of fairy tale land, so they have to move into New York City. So they live in in secret in New York, and so all of the fairy tales like Snow White and everything like that, they all live in this sort of society inside New York, and sort of the whole idea is to try and sort of assimilate with the humans and everything like that. And yeah, it's really, really good. It's a fun read. It's quite easy. One of these. It's quite, there's a lot of little jokes and stuff which I think are quite, like Pinocchio never grows up, so he's kind of very sexually frustrated because he's a 400-year-old spirit but looks like a 10-year-old boy. Yeah, it is really, really good. I would recommend it for sure. So struggling a little bit with this pose. Trying to think about maybe what I'm going to do with these arms. Kind of looking at some references, seeing if there's anything that other poses that I like online for these orums, but it might be one of those cases of trying to sort of just mess around with it a little bit more, and might be a case of a off-stream job just to finish it off. That torso is definitely too big. That's definitely coming down. What do you mean by how dark to go with the story? Is it sort of, what are you sort of battling with? Oh, I see. I think one of the sort of comics that does it very well is Hellboy, actually. They kind of do a good sort of dance of having things that are, very serious, but then also, every so often Hellboy makes a silly joke, and it kind of cuts that tension, so you can do quite well off the back of mixing the two, and having it. I think where you come into trouble is if the book is entirely one way or the other, so it's just going to be like blood and gore fest for the whole sort of thing, then maybe it's a little bit too much for some audiences. But I definitely think if you're tending towards maybe just occasionally having some pretty tough scenes, it can really be, I guess, a bit more interesting to the reader, right? So, it can be quite a big change, which can feel like the story is progressing forward or changing in some way, which can be positive for, the storytelling as well. So it's kind of really a case of what you're using it for. I guess. So if you're just using it for pure shock factor, then maybe it's something to steer away for. But if you're using it sort of like a device within the story, to sort of evolve the story along a little bit, then yeah, I definitely would look to try and leverage it as much as you can. Not sure what we're going to be doing with clothing yet, because we've got this mechanical leg. Yeah, I think that is kind of also something that you can do as well, Alex. You definitely can use that to your advantage, right? There's like a expectation that people have with certain styles of artwork, and if you sort of invert that, then it can be, quite successful. I mean, the biggest one would be Bone. Like Bone was a story that was written for predominantly adults, but the artwork was so akin with sort of Looney Tunes and children's cartoons that there was some people really struggled with it, and a lot of publishers struggled with it to begin with as well. I think there's quite a fascinating documentary on it actually on YouTube, just with all the battles that they had. And I think it was actually Scholastic that, like the kids book publisher that took them on in the end. So, there is definitely no harm, and if anything's going to do well in sort of the current world that we have with Kickstarter and all these other things, then yeah, something a little bit different is definitely not something to shy away from. this actually a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, it's a case. You just build it up from little stories and hopefully get there. And yeah, no problem, man. As well, if you ever feel like sharing more stuff, you're always welcome to. And yeah, feel free to join in whenever you are about. Trying to sell that perspective, and I wonder if this leg is just way too big now. See, I always right, let's organize because I always work in the wrong part of the screen because my Wacom is down here on my right hand side, so it means that I think, but maybe if I chuck you all over here so you can see what's going on. I think if that's a little bit better. I think that's a little bit better, just having it touch on there. Yeah. I can't remember what the chap's name is. I think he's changed the name of his channel, but he does like these like stupidly long deep dives on like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all of these different comic books, and like Rob Liefeld and all these sort of stuff. I love them. They're really fun videos to eat lunch whilst watching. That's the one of my first projects I did was Run Rabbit was like the first comic that I did that was done for Rage Studios. They had a like a anthology book that had a number of different short stories, and I did a short sort of 10-page story for them, and that was, maybe I'll see if I can find a page to show you. As I say, I think my work's definitely moved a lot on from there. It was definitely way more down the sort of Bill Sienkiewicz painted. I kind of committed to doing a fully painted short comic, and that was tough to say the least. I think, yeah, this was one of the pages from it. So I think it should be coming out pretty sometime this year. But yeah, it was like a future world where basically some housemates, one of them goes on a date and doesn't come back from the date, and the other housemate goes out to try and find them in this sort of world where no one really cares anymore, and sort of humans have just sort of succumbed to all of their sort of vices really, and live on this floating island of paradise. Was kind of the idea, and yeah, I think really evolved. It taught me a lot. It was a really tough project to do. Learned a lot about storytelling and sort of what to put on these sort of pages, and yeah, it was definitely one of the harder projects that I did. And then from there I sort of pitched Fruit, which was the thing that I'd been working on for the longest time, sort of alongside this. Fruit had kind of been probably about 2 years in like development up till that point, with a lot of the sort of pages and stuff that I had done. And I'd already sort of was doing that at the time, and sort of went from there really. And I think I definitely feel like my work is improved. It feels a lot more genuine to myself now. I think before it's one of these things where I kind of, as you always do, you kind of look up to the people that inspire you the most, and you tend to just try and, I guess, maybe a little bit too much on the emulation side rather than making your own sort of space. And so that's what I would say at the moment, I think, is definitely the biggest change between my work now and then. And as always, you kind of get more inspiration and develop more as an artist as well from this body is really not my friend at the moment, so I might just actually just knock that all completely out and rethink it. I actually was contacted through, so I was doing, I actually was kickstarting Fruit at the time, before I did the anthology. So I kind of was doing both the projects like parallel, and I was lucky enough to show, be given the opportunity to show the video that I made for the Kickstarter for Fruit on Ink Pulp Live, which is a live show on YouTube with Sean Crystal and Jim Mahfood, and they showed it on there, and that was where the publisher saw it, and then we sort of got in contact afterwards from there. So it was kind of one of these like serendipitous moments where you're like, just happen to be in the right place at the right time for those sort of things. So, I guess it's sort of a case of you put yourself in those positions as well. So. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. It's one of those ones where it's just sort of the beginning of the road, So it's exciting to have it all ahead. What was the goal? Was, to be honest, it was just to see if I could do it. It was right before my birthday last year, and I thought, I wanted to just get something done. We were going to go on holiday, and the plan was just to sort of send it off and just see. So I did the 6-page pitch and wrote like a pitch pack for it, for Fruit, and sent it off to the sort of usual places. And as you can imagine, nothing came back from sort of Image and all of that lot. And I thought, well, if it's not going to come that way, I'll just give it a go myself and kickstart it. And it kind of worked up from there, and just sort of put it on Kickstarter and that sort of gained some traction on there, and yeah, I kind of just kept working on it really. I was kind of doing some stuff around the comics space after I finished my art degree, and yeah, that was sort of my road in. But yeah, as I say, I always found it a bit easier than animation and stuff, which I'd done as my degree, so I always found myself sort of falling back into comics. Right. So yeah, I think this one was quite fun. Oh god, there's a big thing on there. Right, I am going to grab a cloud brush because we love just pushing in. Have I done that on my eraser? No, that's not a good cloud. Where's a good cloud? Oh, I'd love to do that. Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's a lot of time and a big budget to do like a full blown animation of these things. But yeah, I'd love to do like a animated series or something at some point in my career. That would be super cool, I think. Right, I am going to flatten this. And then I'm going to just try and correct a little bit more on the liquefy. And then I think it's going to be a case of coming back to it next week with some more corrections and stuff. A little bit more on there, I think, as well, and then we'll be just a little bit more of a curve that I wanted on that, just to help sell that perspective a bit more. Great, cool. How do I feel about things like AI tools? Not really put a huge amount of thought into them in terms of sort of what they have done in the issue. I think, at the moment where there's a big sort of disconnect in terms of the quality of the work that comes out of them, and also the morality issues around the huge amount of energy that they use, and also scraping of people's copyrighted data and stuff like that. So I think there's massive issues that need to be solved with those sort of products. I think one of the minor and potentially like positive things is there's a dissemination of information and tools and availability of stuff for people. I live in a very fortunate position where I was able to attend art school and have that sort of education, and there is people that don't have those opportunities, and having tools available that allow people to create or start on that creative journey, I think is a final project. I think it's a final product. I think it's incredibly flawed, but I think that's one of the minor positives that you can look at these sort of things for. But yeah, in terms of creative projects, I think that there's a lot of issues, especially with scraping data and environmental issues, that I take a big issue with. But yeah, I do think having tools available to people, like Photoshop and things like that, and allow people to create digital work, I think is important, for sure. But yeah, on that note, on positive, I will, this channel is going to be about traditional work and drawing as well. I do use digital tools, but there won't be any AI here. It will just be awful drawings from here on out. So all done by me. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today, because I've got some other stuff to get on with. What I'll do is carry on with this maybe during the week, or whether I've got some downtime, and then sort of come back to it next week, where we'll talk a little bit more about the characters, maybe do some sort of character sketches, and a bit more like turnaroundy sort of thing, like character sheets, and then make that step forward to developing the story. Thanks everyone for joining. As I said, we've got a Discord, which the link should be in the Discord, in the description down below. So if you do make your own comics or anything like that, you're welcome to join, share your work, share sort of things you're working on. Say if you need any help with art or any of that sort of stuff, then all available there. Also, my social medias are all in the description, and also a link to my shop where you can get the original painting that was the thumbnail of this video, so maybe the reason why you clicked. So if you're interested in that, then that is available on my website. And I'll see you all next week. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. Cheers.